one for him, as we're looking at a 5-0 matches taking place, and right now Impact has a 2-0 lead over Amnesiac.
Myra's Unstable Element. Very hit or miss card this weekend. We've seen some people play it right on turn 5, only drawing a couple of cards, and some people draws their entire deck and they push 14 damage out of nowhere.
Yeah, normally in this matchup, I think that you could see Impact keeping Myra's Unstable Element, but he's not facing off against Malagos Druid. He's facing off against Token Druid for Amnesiac, and that's really a big difference. Token Druid a lot lower to the ground, a lot more push potential, and I think as a result, Impact needs more stuff that's going to sit on board and be resilient. If he decides to go with a Myra's Unstable Element in this matchup, and Amnesiac has like a Whispering Woods leading into a turn that's going to do that, that's when Myra's Unstable Element suddenly becomes a dead card a lot of times because you're worried about the counter push. So Impact wants to substantiate board and then capitalize on it afterwards. Amnesiac, with a very aggressive call for this tournament as well. Impact came to this one with Malagos Druid, Odd Paladin, Odd Rogue, and Death Rattle Hunter. Amnesiac came with Token Druid, Odd Paladin, Odd Rogue, and even Shaman.
In fact, another thing about the Odd Rogue in this matchup is traditionally Rogue has run Fan of Knives, and the Odd Rogue list being want to be as aggressive as possible, really tight list is not able to, have the Fan of Knives, and so just a board of just 1/1s without even the Soul of the Forest is probably just going to be enough to fight for it.
Yeah, occasionally you see it get into a list, like sometimes in the ladder I play against and they Fan of Knives me and I go, what in the world? What in tarnation? And, when it happens, I'm always really upset because I happen to be playing something where Fan of Knives is just really good against me. But the list is, very tight. It has a lot of strong cards that are necessary to make the impactful types of turns that you need. And, Tar Creeper is one of these cards that seemingly is the one that people replace when they put in Fan of Knives. And Tar Creeper should not be replaced in Odd Rogue, in my opinion. It's a card that, almost regardless of what matchup you're playing against, it helps you get to Fungalmancer turns, and it helps protect minions like Vicious Fledgling or Hench Clan Thug. Just being able to hide things behind this, even like Sousy Deckhand. This is a card that could very easily deal a sizable amount of damage in this spot if Amnesiac isn't able to check this. Impact's going to be more focused on wiping out board positions, since the way that he's going to win is to exhaust Amnesiac's significant pushes and then be able to make a lethal push himself.
I think when Odd Rogue first made its debut, I believe Odd Paladin was just at the same time becoming popular, because I believe Gallon day one had just an insane run with it. I think he went like 27-1 with it that first day. And so when Odd Rogue first made its debut, it was definitely running that double Fan of Knives because they were looking out for that Odd Paladin. But now, kind of fell off, and fighting for board, had to use Deckhand to kill it off a 1/1 token, the SI combo to kill off a 1/1 token. What you got to do.
I'm thinking about that Odd Rogue development in the early days. This deck went through like more iterations, I think, than almost any deck in Standard, where I was seeing players in Asia Pacific region reach rank 1 with like, what's the Kobold that shoots an arcane missiles, and like 2 Iron Beak Owls, and like Wolf Rider, and they were just trying to just absolutely kill their opponents as fast as possible. It was really strange, and I would just, no matter what happened, it seemed like I would log into Twitter, look at some deck lists from Ahirune's Twitter that he'd retweeted, and it was just nonsensical looking versions of Odd Rogue in comparison to what we see today. It's really a testament to how strong the 2 damage dagger is at controlling board presence and working from there. So when you think about the weaknesses of it, its big weaknesses are constant pressure to counteract the board position, and then the ability to supplement that with a card advantage mechanism afterwards. That is a lot of what Token Druid does in general. But sometimes you have turns like this one where there's really no good plays here. It's Saronite, Chain Gang, Hero Power, and then another Saronite, Chain Gang, and Hero Power. Spreading play can be good in the matchup, but that's when your opponent draws Fireflies and Crystallizer, and they have to use those to try to get bored. In this position, it's like Amnesiac just wants to move towards Ultimate Infestation, and so Impact having drawn 2 Cold Bloods and a Deadly Poison here really is a punishing effect.
You know how good that Hero Power is? It's almost a Hero Power that says, equip a Fiery War Axe.
It's the way that I always try to compare it is just via Hunter Hero Power, where you get 2 damage for 2 mana.
Yeah.
The Rogue Hero Power is very similar to that. You dagger up, you have 2 damage set. But to do it again, you don't need to invest 2 more mana. Like, you are almost doubling a Hunter's normal hero power by butchering your deck and playing no backstabs and playing no eviscerates and playing no saps. It's like, you wouldn't think that 1 extra attack would be that impactful, but it's just when you measure up the minions in the game and how they line up, it makes a colossal difference with how this deck operates. Something that's really interesting to note here, too, is the play that Impact has with the Void Ripper here. Using Cold Blood to buff up the attack and then flipping it around with Void Ripper.
I love it.
Means that he gets to keep this Vicious Fledgling around. And so the question I have in my head is, should he be double Cold Blooding in this position? Because now he's got a 2-4 Fledgling. This could be a 2-8 Fledgling instead. There is no answer in Amnesiac's deck that takes care of a 2-8 Fledgling. He can stall out board by playing more taunts and by playing Spreading Plague and what have you, but nothing's going to answer it immediately. And so that is really like the turn to look at from Impact. Should he be moving in a bit more aggressively on this Vicious Fledgling? And honestly, I don't know. My head says yes, but that's more of an instinctual maneuver than it is seated in any sort of math shenanigans and crazy stuff that you young college kids do with numbers these days.
Hey, I graduated.
Look, back in my
I'm
day,
no longer a college kid.
we slammed the good cards. They hope they work. All right.
I think the argument for not using the second Cold Blood is twofold. One is that's your second Cold Blood.
Yes.
You're running out of gas very quickly. The second one is you just saw Amnesiac use the first swipe. And so a 2-4 has a pretty substantial chance of living, knowing that there's only one swipe remaining.
Yeah. And then also, if you have a turn like this one, Cold Blood looks a little bit better here.
Ooh, yeah.
So
You can play your whole hand.
there's more negative impacts to using the Cold Blood, I'd say, than there are positive impacts to using it on the previous turn. It's just an interesting thought to me. But here, he gets to clear up the whole board. A turn Spreading Plague Tyrant was exactly what Impact was thinking about. Very strong play.
Amnesiac still has the coin, so we can get the Ultimate Infestation out a turn earlier. However, in the meantime... Oh yeah!
Oh, excuse me. That is a disgusting draw. That is so good. That is the best card that Amnesiac could draw this turn. And without it, honestly, he might have fallen out of this game.
I don't think I've ever actually seen the Forbiddeness Flute transform into a Serenite Chain Gang. This is insane.
Well, not in the same turn.
Especially in the same turn.
Usually it's like a coin Saronite Chain Gang into the Floop. When you just rip it and Floop's like, I'm here to do some science. Like you young college kids do. And the worst draw in Impact's deck, no!
The one unplayable card. Oh my goodness. This is just so unfortunate for Impact.
And so
this Vicious Fledgling wants to hit the face so bad and has been denied every single opportunity.
This is a big turn to look at as well, because Amnesiac gets to have a hand reading opportunity here. That card in Impact's hand is somewhere between Vile Spine Slayer, South Sea Deckhand, Crystallizer, Firefly, Baku, Leroy Jenkins. The cards he knows that it's not are things like Fungalmancer. He knows it's not a card like that. That's a big thing to think about because it's going to affect how he can play future turns. So in this spot, the range of that card is so wide that Amnesiac never needs to think about how he plays around a range of cards. You rip the Ultimate Infestation and you have follow-up afterwards. And Impact finds Fungalmancer immediately, but you want to get that Baku out of here. Get that thing on board. It's not doing anything in this matchup. Big stuff sometimes is just good enough.
Yeah, this is one, is you just want to be mana efficient. Two, this is more stats than Fungalmancer can get on the board. And so it's still just a 7-8. It's still just a big old Boulder Fist Ogre. Malfurion.
Wow. And so Amnesiac here, he is faced with a position where I think that, Poisonous Minions do make some sense because you want to take care of the Baku that's on board, but you have Spreading Plague, you have Stonehill Scavenger to buff up your taunt minions. You have a lot of different directions you can take this, and it's just simply because of the card advantage that he's accumulated. And because his life total is so safe, I could see Amnesiac taking a number of risks in the next couple turns.
So if we go for the Poison Minions, we're going to go back up to 30, but however, there's 13 damage showing. You can assume that's going to be 16 because of the dagger plus the damage to the Hench Clan Thug. Also with the Fungalmancer, that's going to be 20 total.
It's really given the amount of card advantage that Amnesiac has, he's probably free to just continue to compound that and just work on life total. Eventually he's going to find some spell stones and really have big board swing impact on board. So because of that, I don't necessarily think he needs to take the risk with spiders. But something I know about Amnesiac is that he will play very aggressively with life total and will play very aggressively with resources to try and eliminate the opponent's chance. So whatever he does here, to me, makes sense. And, kind of playing right into that tone I was just talking about, very aggressive life total. Doesn't worry about, a dagger plus a South Sea Deckhand or an SI7 agent taking care of these. Just believes that he can get the job done afterwards.
And I don't mind him being very aggressive with his life total as well, just because he does have the double branching pass in hand. And so if need be, that's just 24 armor that he can have at any point in time.
Yeah. This is a pretty brutal sight for Impact, honestly. Like taunts, he'd have been like, okay, we can push through these, maybe get something done. The Poisonous, though, without a check to the second Spider, he loses a lot of board presence.
Also picking up the second 5-mana minion in the deck, so he can't empty his hand, unfortunately.
You know,
7 damage going face.
You look at this game and wonder, could Myers have changed this? And you know, something to think about is that Impact would have been one card, you know, more shy into the deck, but would the refuel of that be enough to really change the game? You know, life total is also a thing that Impact needs to think about. He's been very aggressive with that and finds himself at 13 health. If at any turn he has a dead turn using Myra's Unstable Element, that's enough for Amnesiac to seal the deal. So, you know, look at that Sarnet Chain Gang turn, for instance. Would he have been able to fight that off effectively if Myra's Unstable Element was taking up a card slot instead?
Myers is just one of those cards. I want to do a little throwback to the old days of just like mid-range Paladin versus like Control Priest. And the mid-range Paladin would have Tyrion in the opening hand and they would keep it.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I'm never not getting to turn 8 in this matchup, so, and I want my 8 drop.
Yeah.
We're never getting, so is Myra's kind of just like in the same camp as that?
Well, yes and no. You know, Odd Rogue can very quickly end games if it goes unchecked for a turn or so. This game, Amnesiac was able to check a lot of the early board, and, you know, the Whispering Woods was a big part of that. So Myra's Unstable Element, I think, was really peeling a lot of that away. And I think if Impact had kept it, in this particular game, it might have paid off. But in the grand scheme of things, no, I don't think it does.
Amnesiac looking like he's on the cusp of stabilization. Impact, I think, has just one more turn remaining. With the Branching Pass gaining armor, I think that one turn just became 0 turns.
Well, I mean, Myra's is the best draw here. And instead it's Dire Maul.
That's not Myra's.
No, it's not Myra's. It's pretty much the opposite of that. Instead of drawing the rest of your deck, you don't draw anything.
That would be the opposite.
Yeah. Put back all the rest of your cards into your deck.
Spreading Plague. Wrath actually picked up. This is something I was not expecting to see. This is kind of... Well, the Druid lists have been so tight that, like, Wrath kind of just fell off to the side, and I didn't know Token Druid actually brought it back.
You know, when you lose the power that you were able to get from Giggling Inventor, you have to make that up somewhere. And while some players have opted to go in the direction of Violet Teachers and Oaken Summons, I've seen a lot of players just opt to go in the direction of, you know, Power of the Wild Wrath and, like, work towards the big payoff turns. The Whispering Woods with Soul of the Forest. You know, have the double Chain Gang in there. Just look for a power turn at some point, and accept the fact that against a deck like Even Warlock, you're just going to lose some games. You know, against Even Warlock, you're going to run out of gas sometimes, and you're going to lose. But against the aggressive decks that deck line up, you know, you're looking at Direwolf Alphas, you're looking at Acidic Swamp Oozes, you're looking at Totems getting picked off by Hero Powers. He's got some of the more powerful cards here, but Henge Clan Thug is a pretty sizable thing that you have to check. And the fact that Amnesiac's going first is a big benefit for him in this matchup because he gets on the board first. And that's really the measure to try to take advantage of. How can he best get something to stick onto the board as long as he can? Because right when he starts to snowball the board position, that's when his minions get so large that it's tough for Impact to really come back from it. So that's really the game plan for Impact. Eliminate all of Amnesiac's minions. Amnesiac's is to get one minion ahead.
I was about to say, this goes back to show how powerful the Rogue Hero Power is, but Amnesiac picks up the one answer to it, the Acidic Swamp Ooze.
Yeah, focusing again towards that aggressive mechanism. Even Shaman's already quite strong versus slower decks, and so because of that, you want to supplement your game against aggressive decks, and being able to pick off a dagger and develop is a very disruptive turn to Odd Rogue.
Dire Maul coming down turn 1. Amnesiac going to go for the Acidic Swamp Ooze. I can't imagine he is.
No.
Can't imagine.
Yeah,
he's got the eel.
It's the eel. You eel him.
Eel. What do you eel the 1/3?
You could Direwolf Alpha here and just poke the Dire Maul as well. I think
it's heal.
I think it's quite acceptable. Yeah, it's mostly because it's going to heal, but also just the way that it plays into a Totem Ooze turn and then into a double eel turn to check a Henge Clan Thug. You know, typically I just say you eel him because that's like the best card in your deck.
It's also fun to say.
It's like the reason you play Even Shaman is to have like this 2-mana Keeper of the Grove, basically. And, you know, in Impact spot here, the Tar Creeper looks very appealing. You know, this is an open deck list format. He knows that Amnesiac's going to have 2 oozes in the deck. And so what happens if you get oozed in this spot versus what happens if you don't kill Direwolf Alpha? You know, a lot of little things come into play here where the first couple turns of this really set the pace and decide where you're at in the game.
You said Keeper of the Grove. Now I'm just sad. I missed that card.
So another interesting opportunity here. Impact is going to poke the healing totem, and this is a common play that was discovered pretty early on in Hearthstone. When you poke the healing totem, it's going to heal back up. But what this prevents is a flame tongue getting set alongside of this and allowing a trade over it, and then the healing totem heals itself back up. You sacrifice that 1 damage, but it prevents a snowball effect that can be extremely detrimental to your game plan.
Impact, he doesn't know it yet, but he's going to be very much rewarded for that play. The flame tongue coming off the top. Also not throwing out the Hench Clan Thug quite yet. You want to coin out that Firefly.
He has to pay attention to board presence.
Oh, yeah.
If he disrespects that, he will lose the game. That's true for both players as well. You cannot disrespect the board presence and the snowball effect.
The 1/1 totem. It's actually really good because it's going to combo along with the Flame Tongue to better push that Tar Creeper, better push through the Hench Clan Thug, buffing itself up.
Yeah, it kind of sucks in this position because there's the 1/2 Firefly on board. But, you know, it's just a thing. Like, that's the whole point of totems, is to occupy an opposing attack. It's the threat of what that totem means more than just the totem itself. So you hate to see it, you know, lost in this manner. But, you know, every point of damage does matter. You know, that can be relevant. In this position, it's very unlikely to because, you know, it's Firefly and it's Even Shaman.
Yep.
But a lot of times that damage really does add up. Like, when I'm playing against Even Shaman and they roll a 1/1 totem on turn 1, I'm looking at the 2/3 in my hand. I was like, I was going to coin this. And now I'm worried about Flame Tongue. Now I'm worried about the eel in me. And I'm just like, stupid 1/1.
Now this is where Even Shaman has to start making more decisions. Do you play Fire Plume Phoenix to be as man efficient as possible, or are you playing that Primal Fin trying to go as wide as possible? Are we valuing stats and battle cries, or are we valuing minion number?
I mean, that's the big question, right? Is you have to start thinking about Fungal Mancer here. How does Amnesiac get past that turn cleanly? And to me, that means putting as much stuff on board as possible and eliminating my opponent's ability to check that. So here, takes out Firefly, makes a 1/1. That 1/1 gets attacked by Tar Creeper, means that Flame Tongue Totem or Fire Plume Phoenix can be effective, and you start squelching the assault back again from a Fungal Mancer perspective.
Impact, without that coin now, it's going to struggle a little bit to get the Hench Clan Thug out of the hand. He picked up the deckhand, so he has something to play, but I think he's going to prioritize killing this totem, stop the 1/1s from coming out.
Yeah, it's the question of how you kill the totem, right? Like, you can use South Sea Deckhand, but there's a minion sitting on the other side of the board that can value trade it. And so right now he wants to lean on this Tar Creeper and hope it's enough to get the job done. He may just have to launch the South Sea Deckhand alongside of it. So here it looks like he's going to be paying pretty close attention to the Merc Spark Eels as well. So I think this is probably the strongest line of play, given what he has to fight against on the other side too. It's a Void Fire Elemental outright turning the game and winning it for you.
And we're talking about fighting through this Tar Creeper, but he doesn't necessarily have to do that just right now.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's just a 1/5 on Impact's turn. And so he can just take his time, build up a board, and then just come in with an overwhelming amount of force to finish off the game. Doesn't necessarily have to fight for board for minions because he has so many battle cries that can just go past the taunt.
Yeah, it's Acidic Swamp Ooze is looking appealing here because there's a poison on the dagger. It's the follow-up that really kind of irks me here. He's gonna have to use Earth and Might in the 1/1 push through this, and that leaves the 1/1 vulnerable. I'm sorry, the 4/2 vulnerable to the 2/1 sitting on board. So Impact perhaps can get something going here, but you see how big that dagger disruption was. And this would have been an SI7 agent turn instead.
Plenty of stuff still getting cleared up, and now the Hench Clan Thug does not have really an answer. He's got the Flame Tongue, he's going to have to trade it in. I guess he does have an answer. Yeah, it's just a lot, though.
It's a really kind of ugly-looking answer is the problem. Oh, well, actually,
that's kind of better.
That could be, quite significant because you're going to leave Flame Tongue on board, which means that the totem that you set alongside it from the hero power is going to represent 2 damage, and then you have the Fire Plume Phoenix. So he actually does have another, 2 turns of checks here before he needs to start drawing some of the bigger stuff in deck. And you look at that, there's 2 copies of Corpse Taker, 2 Argent Commanders, even Gen Greymane's fine in this spot, 2 Fire Elementals, Alakir, Lich King, Sea Giants. Even Shaman is stacked to play some endgame. You just have to get there safely.
Another thing is, you're only drawing that endgame 1 card at a time. This deck has struggled historically to, once it's run out of gas, it's going to stay run out of gas, as opposed to the Odd Rogue, which has cards like the Myra's Unstable Element to draw the rest of your deck very quickly. And so, in the next couple of turns...
his eyebrows to the second Flame Tongue, oop.
He's like, was not expecting that. But this is where even Shaman's going to start struggling. He's got to pick up something very quickly, and it's got to happen now.
I mean, Impact's turns aren't looking super clean as well. There's still a lot of 1-cost cards left in the deck. And then there's some high impact stuff, and Fungal Mancer's pretty squelched right now. It's a good follow-up turn, but you got to have the stuff on board first. So I'd say both of these players are pretty uneasy about their position right now.
At the end of the day, if it does come down to a hero power war, say they're both drawing just unplayable cards, Rogue's going to take it eventually.
That will eventually stop for, even Shaman. Again, one Direwolf is gone, both Flame Tongues are gone, Primalfin's gone, and Ooze is gone, both Eels are gone. Almost everything left in the deck costs 4 or more for Amnesiac. Once you get past the early game, it is big stuff very often. It's a pretty scary measure for impact. But at the same time, it's a scary measure for Amnesiac. Anytime he sees something significant, he goes, I have to take care of that or I lose. So now the Flame Tongue being threatened by the second 3/3 that's on board as well. So even with the clear on the Vicious Fledgling here, still facing down something. But Hex gets drawn. And so now the question is, how do you preserve a board here? And, you can't play Fire Plume Phoenix and Hex in the same turn.
Not yet. The other thing that Amnesiac has to keep in mind is, we were talking about this yesterday, this is only his one copy of Hex.
That's right.
And so he's got to be very careful about where he allocates that, because if he uses it on a 3/3 SI agent, and then Baku's going to come out in a couple of turns, he's going to have to go through it with brute force.
Yeah, I would tend to favor saving the Hex in this position, because the Fire Plume Phoenix just gets a minion on board.
Yep.
So your opponent's going to kill your Flame Tongue here very often, and then you have the 3/3 to maybe fight back a little bit. So another scary turn here. Impact Draw's dead.
One of the worst draws in the deck. The Deadly Poison doesn't going to kill the Fire Plume Phoenix. Flame Elemental you really want to keep for a combo activator, but I think he needs to play it just for the board.
Yeah, I think so too. This is a scary turn.
So it's real bad.
The thing about it is if Amnesiac drew Flame Elemental right here, like, oh my gosh, Fire Elemental gets drawn. Oof. If Impact did not play this 1/2, he would not be able to kill the Fire Elemental in the following turn.
Yeah.
That's why it's so vital for him to play it.
This also goes back to what you were saying for Amnesiac, is he's drawn his entire low end of his deck. Everything out from here on out is very likely to just be a lot of gas.
It's just big stuff. It's like playing a bad arena deck, but you look down and you go, yeah, we went even on cards. Now I got bigger stuff. It's kind of weird to say, but that is oftentimes how aggressive matchups can work. It's the player who's slightly greedier is the one who ends up winning the game. You either want to be 2 steps faster or you want to be 1 step slower. When your opponent's just 1 step faster, yeah, they get you sometimes, but most of the time they run out of gas.
Yep. I like that. I want that caption underneath every single Even Shaman. Even Shaman. It's like a bad arena deck.
Well, it's like a really good arena deck.
Yeah.
But
if I played that in arena, I would be very upset.
Oh, no, yeah. If I played against this in arena, I'd be like, what the heck, man? You got Lich King, Sea Giants, Alakir, Galamos, Fire Element. What the heck? How'd you get a Gen Greymane in arena?
And only draft even cards.
I don't even know if he's offered in arena. I don't even think he is.
I don't think he is either. Do you invest the Cold Blood? Kill off a 6/5. That's just so much overkill.
I think he's just in bad shape. The 4/1 dagger is just so bad in this spot. So you Cold Blood to try to stave off value trades.
4/2 dagger into the 1/1. Oh, that feels awful. That hurt to watch.
If Amnesiac draws another big card here, oh brother.
Arguably the biggest one he could have drawn.
It's pretty big. He's got, you know that wheel that the captains use on the boat? Sea Giant's wearing one of those as a belt buckle.
It's a big boy.
That's big.
He's carrying an anchor.
I don't want to fight anyone who can carry an anchor. Now the question here, though, is do you deploy it?
Yes.
Well, Hex looks like a pretty good turn. Trade off the Fire Elemental, gets healed by the Healing Totem, Hex the 0/1, but then you don't have a Sea Giant in play.
I'm all for having Sea Giants in play.
Yeah, I like Sea Giants in play.
I'm a fuck. Why make trade your opponent's going to make for you?
Also, your opponent's life's just dwindling at this point. You're at 30. You don't really care if they're hitting you really hard. It is a raw value battle at this point. Save the Hex in case something crazy happens.
Yeah, Amnesiac's doing the math. He says Leroy Coldblood is nowhere near close. So I'm playing the Sea Giant. You might have to use the Leroy just to kill the Sea Giant.
I will silence their screams.
That costs 9 mana, and that's still worse than the Sea Giant.
He's going to go to 8.
Oof. Also, he has to decide what he wants to trade into. I don't think he can afford to trade into the Sea Giant.
Well, Amnesiac's not going to trade either.
the way it's looking right now for Impact is you might have to trade the Leroy Jenkins and the Baku into the Sea Giant, but it's going to get hexed.
Impact is very dead.
You could see it in his face.
Well, you could just see it on the board. I mean, he's about to X the 7, 8 hit him for 8 damage and that stuff afterwards. This is the nightmare.
He's just slowly receding into his shirt like a turtle. He's like, I don't want to watch this. Just let it.
Well, I mean, you were up 2-0 in the series, and now, you know, this matchup really isn't that bad for Impact, but it panned out really poorly. And the Druid game panned out, you know, pretty darn poorly as well. And you kind of look down and you go, I was 2-0, and now it's final game. You know, when that happens to you, you always feel like you're down 0-2 in the series. And, you know, that mentality is something that you really want to actively avoid, is, you know, having that self-doubt and having those thoughts in your mind. But, you know, when you're a human being and you're sitting on stage and this is happening, you are very susceptible to it.
Yeah, even Shaman is just one of those. It's a very aggressive deck, but it's always thrived in environments where it was going up against other minion-based aggressive decks because of all the battle cry effects, like the Eels and the Foul Plume Phoenix. And so I think this is definitely still in Amnesiac's game plan right now. Is he thought he was going to win this, and now it's going to go to Game 5.
Yep, that's a one-way ticket.
Urgent Commander. Aw.
Game number 5.
I wanted to see the Sea Giant hit him.
Coming up. See Amnesiac just kind of sit up and flips over his notebook to keep taking notes. They are allowed here at the esports arena for the HCT here in Orange County.
Hard to do. Remember, I went to DreamHack Austin to be a competitor, and I was like on a whim. I'm like, you know what? Let's give this hand tracking thing a try. Gave up like 4 turns into game 1. I was just like, this is impossible. And if you've ever watched Amnesiac in person hand track, he is hyper focused and he is one of the better ones in the game. I would pop a blood vessel if I could do like half the hand tracking he could.
I don't even know what that means.
Pop? I'd be thinking too hard.
It's like an episode of Dragon Ball Z. You're just like, you focus for 15 minutes, find out what happens next week.
So it's like that, except like nothing good happens after those 15 minutes. It's just like instead of turning Super Saiyan, I just collapse from the intensity of how much I'm focusing.
It's an odd rogue mirror match, and this often favors the attacker's initiative. So what that means is Impact gets to dagger first, and he gets to start dictating trades first. That is a major deal in this mirror match because for Amnesiac, it's about playing defense and trying to set up a counter swing on board. When all the cards match up pretty evenly, it feels like it's more difficult to actually swing board positions, but it is quite easy to go even with that. But if it starts going even, what that means is Impact gets to attack face, then Amnesiac has to attack minions. In that situation, Impact will typically tend to favor taking good trades, and what that means is just a compounding board pressure issue. So there's never a swing turn that's really involved. It's more about him just slowly getting a big lead. So Amnesiac has to find ways to stave off that pressure, and then at the same time get a big lead by doing effectively the exact same thing. It's much harder to do when you're the player going second.
There are definitely pros and cons of both sides because, like you said, Impact, for example, turn 3 Hench Clan Thug, upgrade it. Amnesiac does the same thing, but then Impact's Hench Clan Thug just gets bigger and can value trade into it.
Yeah, and then you kill a Hench Clan Thug and you take 5 damage.
Yeah. But on the other side of the coin is Amnesiac has the coin, so he can do stuff like on turn 4, coin out that Bilespine Slayer, try to get a tempo swing in there. But, like you said, definitely advantage going to the person who's going first.
Yeah, like you just look at what happens here. The Firefly in Amnesiac's hand now is not good. The Hench Clan Thug is actively being challenged on board by Cold Blood, by Poison, by sometimes just a one-drop SI7 agent. There's so many things that take him back off board that it's really difficult just to substantiate that board presence. Like, I could see him foregoing a dagger this turn, but then you're starting to worry about the impact that Cold Blood has, where then Impact then gets to just have more board development. That's a snowballing issue that Amnesiac's going to try to avoid, but right now it's looking quite tough to me. He does have 2 poisons in hand, though, so being able to chip away at 1/1s to mitigate board presence, and then being able to follow up with poisons to wipe out Hench Clan Thugs, to wipe out Vicious Fledglings, to wipe out Captain Greenskins that are going to be there, those are very important measures as well.
Another good thing about having the Deadly Poisons and the Cold Blood in hand for Amnesiac is sometimes you just abandon the game plan of just trying to fight for board, and you can just go for broke and just send it all to the face. And when you can turn your hero power into an Arcanite Reaper, you have Cold Blood in the hand, it's not that far outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I mean, that is a game plan that sometimes happens. If Impact stumbles on board presence at any turn, and Amnesiac gets that 1-turn lead, having the access to that extra card often means access to extra damage. So That's probably not coming up in this game, but it is something to really consider. It's like in the odd road mirror match, as soon as you take a lead, you want to try to compound that as quickly as possible.
Deadly Poison, getting this Hench Clan Thug out of the way as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm just trying to fight for anything with the second Firefly, but you see how problematic this comes. Amnesiac is effectively throwing this Firefly away to try to take charges out of Impact's hand, and that is a game plan that it starts to lead to very dire situations very quickly.
Especially with Captain Greenskin coming down this turn, going to upgrade that 2/1 dagger into a 3/2, so he's not even going to get rid of the dagger.
Well, something to think about is I think that Impact does have an opportunity to deviate away from Greenskin here. You don't necessarily need the 2 damage from SI7 Agent. And so, to me, one of the big ones to look at is the number of Tar Creepers in Amnesiac's deck. It's 2 of them. Right now, it's an inefficient kill onto Tar Creeper if you use Greenskin right here. In all intents and purposes, it's a burn card. So I would be using it here, but there is a consideration for using SI7 Agent, and then finding a turn to Dagger and Poison, and then use the Greenskin. But the presence, I think, matters more at this point.
Yeah, there's also just an argument just to be as mana efficient as possible, especially with Myra's Unstable Element. There's the Vile Spine I was talking about. We have the coin.
Now, the thing about it, though, is that Amnesiac's got 2 Hench Clan Thugs as well. So with 2 Hench Clan Thugs, he can play both of those, kill the Greenskin with the 4-point dagger, and suddenly he's got 2 4/4s. This might be the swing turn he needs.
I like that a lot. These Hench Clan Thugs are going to be really hard to get out, but if there was ever a turn to do it, this is it. We just saw it come down with Captain Greenskin. He's running out of gas really quickly. If he has to take an entire turn to use the Myra's Unstable Element, and he's facing down 2 Hench Clan Thugs, that's going to be when the beatdown starts happening.
Yeah, that's why Myra's is such a tough card in this matchup, is because you have to have the time to play it.
Yeah.
If you have the time to play it, oftentimes you've pretty much won. Unless you're both down to pittance, like last game in the Even Shaman versus Rogue we saw. There, Myra's would have been a great card for a number of turns. In this matchup, though, you are constantly facing down pressure that will snowball out of control. So, Amnesiac being able to get substantial presence means that Impact has less time to do that.
Looks like he's going for the Hench Clan turn. If he takes 5 from the Captain Greenskin, it's going to go down to 17. Is he worried about Impact somehow finding the damage despite not having board control?
Yes and no. For more, I look at it, it's like, can Impact, ever execute that game plan? With Myra's in hand, maybe the answer is yes, but you're staring at 2 Hench Clan Thugs, and you're like, no, I am not taking this risk. I'm killing these, and I'm hoping. But now, this is where the Vile Spine Slayer comes in, and Impact has the board swung back around on him. And so since the board presence is Firefly Vile Spine, he's probably finding a Myra's turn on that one. But then you look at it afterwards, and you've got Cold Blood, Poison, and Fungal Mancer. This probably is the turning point.
This Myra is going to be so incredibly important. Deadly Poison, Myra's. He's going to be able to kill the Vile Spine, and he's going to draw 9 cards. What 9 cards is he looking for? Is he looking for that last bit of damage?
Damage.
Tar Creeper's looking pretty good as well. That's not damage. Do you want to fight for board, or you want to kill your opponent? I want to kill my opponent, because he's at 17.
Both of those sound good.
There's
Finds
the Leroy
Cold Blood.
The last card.
So that is a really big deal. So 4 damage on board, 6, 10 from Leroy Cold Blood, 2 more from the SI7 Agent. That's 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 damage exactly. So that probably is enough to get it done.
Amnesiac picking up this second Cold Blood. He's got a lot of damage in hand, but just nowhere to go with it. Fatigue's starting to set in, though.
For Amnesiac, I think that he's going to go over the numbers here, see where the damage lines up, and probably land on a trade turn with Fungal Mancer. But boy, is that ugly. Now, if he thinks that that's never a winning line, instead he's going to Cold Blood and go face, and then hope to counter push with a 2-turn lethal. But that is a daunting task when your opponent has just drawn the rest of the deck.
Amnesiac looks like he has about 2 turns left to live.
If he doesn't kill this Dire Mole, he's dead.
Yeah. So we go with the Fungal Mancer trade. He's going to take 1 point of fatigue damage. Then he's going to take 2 points of fatigue damage. So he's going to take 3 points of fatigue damage.
He's not dead immediately, actually. That's an interesting point.
Fungal Mancer coming down.
Oh, boy.
Cold Blood's coming down.
Oh, boy. All right. So I, in my head, when I calculated this, gave Impact infinite mana. And that's not how mana works.
Does he not have infinite mana?
No, he does not. He doesn't have infinite life either. So now it's looking like, what defensive measure do you take into a 2-turn lethal setup?
He's got the Deadly Poison online, but he doesn't want to take that much more damage. He has the Cold Blood in hand. He can Cold Blood the Dire Mole and trade it into the 7/4. He has the Tar Creeper, which is one of the cards I was talking about picking up.
If the thing
Tar
about
Creeper, Fungalmancer might be a play.
if you cold blood the Dire Mole and trade it into the 7/4, what ends up happening is you lose a lot of your damage push, so you have to have Fungalmancer make that back up. But when Amnesiac's down to 2 cards and you have 3 minions with a taunt in the way, that's probably enough. Wow.
So we have the Fungalmancer. The problem is he can't play the Leroy Fungalmancer for a whole lot of damage push at the same time. But he can't push through this Tar Creeper either. Fungalmancer!
Oh, worst draw in the deck! Baku, I take it back, was probably worse, but this is just equally as bad. It doesn't do anything. It's really,
It's a 2/2.
It's really smart of Impact to take the damage to wipe out that 3/4.
This Tar Creeper is doing so much work right now, because if that wasn't there, he could be able to Deadly Poison, push 4 damage, 8 damage over the course of 2 turns, and the Fatigue would do the rest, but Fungalmancer, absolutely devastating. 5 mana 2/2.
If Impact had not killed that Firefly with his face, he probably would have lost this game.
So many minute decisions that just led to just that 1 damage, that 1 minion ended up deciding the game, and Fungalmancer, trying to think, even like a Vile Spine to push through the Tar Creeper isn't going to be enough.
I can't see how Amnesiac wins from here.
He's taking a lot of damage. He's just deciding whether he trades.
I do see it. It's Myra's Unstable Element into Southsea Deckhand.
Oh.
And Impact realizes right away that that damage on the Tar Creeper should have been sunk into that Fungalmancer because of that position. But I don't think it really matters. He's still got a 2-turn setup. And so it comes down to Amnesiac needing to draw something big right here. Southsea Deckhand's good enough. The Southsea Deckhand's not good enough. It's going to be Myra's. Not it. Myra's Southsea Deckhand, another source of damage.
That Tar Creeper, SI Agent would have been enough if this Tar Creeper wasn't in the way.
That's right.
Would have been able to swing with the dagger twice. The SI Agent would have gone face. Fatigue would have done the rest.
As close as it gets, but Impact, 3 games to 2 over Amnesiac. Almost able to bring it back, but not quite. Amnesiac's going to fall to a 5-1 record. Impact improves to 6-0 match score over 6 rounds of play and is looking poised.
Right about now.